I've known Chuck for a while, and we always had run-ins, but it always seems like I get the last word.
Trash-talking Larry Bird was like poking a sleeping bear, except this bear didn't just wake up. It got creative, ruthless, and deadly accurate. Chuck Person thought he could rattle Larry Legend during their heated Celtics versus Pacers matchup. Spoiler alert, he couldn't. What followed wasn't just a basketball lesson. It was a masterclass in humiliation. This is the story of what happens when an arrogant showboat meets Larry Legend. The Indiana Pacers had finished the season strong, winning 12 of their last 20 games to secure the 7th seed in the playoffs. Their reward? A matchup against the Boston Celtics. A challenge Chuck Person wanted. This wasn't just any series for Person. The rivalry had been simmering since his rookie year in 1986, when he faced Larry Bird and the Celtics for the first time in an exhibition game in Terre Haute. Before tip-off, Bird, never one to hold back, had a message for the young rookie. Play your heart out or prepare to be embarrassed. Person recalled, Larry was the premier small forward in our league at the time, being 6'10" and about 240 pounds. If you did not play your best against Larry, he would embarrass you, and he would tell you as he was doing it. Person didn't back down. The Pacers won the game, and Chuck had a solid performance, even feeling like he'd played in the finals. After all, it was Larry Bird, back where he had made his college legacy. But that didn't last long. A few weeks later, they met again, this time at the legendary Boston Garden. Bird exploded for 38 points, 11 rebounds, and 8 assists, leaving Person and the Pacers in the dust. That game left a mark on Person, fueling a rivalry every time they shared the court. The two had more in common than just their positions. Both could shoot the lights out from deep, and both were masters of trash talk. But Chuck would soon learn that going toe-to-toe with Larry Bird was like playing chess against the board's creator. The real fireworks were about to begin. By 1991, Larry Bird was battling injuries and nearing the end of his storied career. But if anyone thought age or pain would slow down his legendary trash talk, they were sorely mistaken. And in the first-round matchup against the Indiana Pacers, Bird found the perfect target, Chuck Person. With the 3-time MVP squaring off against the self-proclaimed rifleman, the stakes were higher than ever. Bird, ever the competitor, wasn't just playing to win. He was determined to prove he was still the king of Indiana basketball. What followed was a series packed with drama, intensity, and of course, Larry's signature wit. Chuck Person had made a name for himself as the Pacers' #1 player, but Larry wasn't about to let him forget one crucial fact. He wasn't from Indiana. While Bird hailed from French Lick, Indiana, Person was an Alabama native who starred at Auburn. To Larry, this wasn't just a playoff series, it was a chance to remind everyone who really owned Indiana basketball. As Pacers stars like Person and Reggie Miller started talking about taking over the Eastern Conference, Bird wasn't having it. Larry was like, listen, I'm gonna tell you this. I'm the baddest man to come out of Indiana. Like you just holding place right now. You're gonna come to my house and mow my grass if we win this series. Chuck's like, yeah man, we ain't losing this series. But, as we'll come to discover, Chuck probably should have brought a lawnmower to Boston.
Chuck works for me in the summer. He mows my yard. So I see him every day.
Game 1 at the Boston Garden played out the way you'd expect from an experienced team on their home turf. The Celtics walked away with a 127-120 victory, but it wasn't smooth sailing for Larry Bird. While Bird did deliver a triple-double, his shooting struggled, hitting just 6 of 20 from the field. His lingering back issues were taking a toll, limiting his preparation and leaving him reliant on sheer willpower to get through games. Luckily for Boston, Reggie Lewis stepped up, leading all scorers with 28 points. But while Bird spent the night recovering in traction at New England Baptist Hospital, Chuck Person was gearing up for a statement performance. Game 2 was all Chuck Person, with a playoff career-high 39 points, including a then-playoff record 7 three-pointers. Person put on a show. The Pacers, behind Person and a strong 24-point, 10-assist performance from Michael Williams, pulled off the franchise's first-ever road playoff win, shocking the Garden crowd with a 130-118 victory. Person was unstoppable, draining shot after shot and relishing every moment. His confidence was palpable, and the Celtics knew they were in for a fight as the series shifted to Indianapolis. Back in Indianapolis, the series took an unexpected turn. Market Square Arena, once a warm reception for Indiana native Bird and the Celtics, was now a hostile environment. The psyched-up Pacers, however, were out of sync. Chuck Person, who had been Indiana's hero in Game 2, disappeared, managing just 6 points on a cold 2 of 8 shooting night.
10-point margin. Person inside doesn't get it, and nothing is going down for the Riflemen tonight.
Meanwhile, Boston's depth shined. Kevin McHale dropped 22, Kevin Gamble added 18, and 6 Celtics players scored in double figures, leading Boston to a 112-105 win and a 2-1 series lead. Facing elimination, Chuck Person delivered one of the most electric performances of the series. With Indiana down late, Person unleashed a personal 12-0 run, capped by a dagger three-pointer that broke a tie with just over 2 minutes remaining. "Nobody can guard me, I'm a bad man," Person shouted to the roaring home crowd. But while Person was on fire, Bird was quietly enduring one of the most painful stretches of his career. It was just brutal. The nerve was shooting down both legs, and I thought that was the end of my career right there. The sad part about it was after the games, I would go to the hospital and get traction, go home, play a game, and then come back to the hospital. It was ridiculous. Hobbled by Resolute, Bird implored Celtics fans to bring the energy for Game 5 back at the Boston Garden. The stage was now set for an unforgettable showdown. Game 5 wasn't just a basketball game. It was a spectacle, a Hollywood thriller come to life on the hardwood. Every element you could imagine was there. Stars trading bucket after bucket, relentless trash talk, bone-crunching fouls, and a crowd that felt more like a tidal wave of noise than an audience. This wasn't your average closeout game. Some games are played, some games are won, but this was the kind of game that carved itself into NBA history. If basketball games were archived in the Library of Congress, this one would be preserved as a national treasure. The Celtics had built an early lead, but as the second quarter ticked away,
Bird is hurt. Bird is down, and he's hurt.
Disaster struck. Pacers forward Mike Sanders poked the ball loose, and Larry Bird dove for it with his trademark grit. But as Bird hit the floor, his head made a sickening thud. For a moment, the entire Garden held its breath. Bird stayed down before being helped to the locker room.
What effort by Larry Bird.
And Larry Bird is headed directly to the locker room for treatment.
The Pacers, sensing an opening, turned up the heat. Chuck Person was on fire, draining shot after shot from the perimeter. Momentum swung Indiana's way, and the underdog Pacers were less than 20 minutes away from pulling off the upset. Then it happened. During a third-quarter timeout, Larry Bird emerged from the tunnel, and the Garden erupted.
And here comes Larry Bird. As Michael Williams is covered by Robert Town.
Reggie Miller painted the scene perfectly.
46, I remember it to this day, of the third quarter. It felt like a train in the middle of old Boston. That's how loud it was. The crowd was so loud, and I remember looking at Chuck, and we said to ourselves, "You're in trouble." Oh, that's what we said.
Even the doctors had warned Bird against returning. By halftime, he was diagnosed with a concussion and told his night should be over. But Larry Legend wasn't wired like most players. For him, there was no sitting out, not in a Game 5, not with the series and his legacy on the line. Larry Bird's return was a spark that set the Celtics ablaze. With Bird back on the floor, Boston exploded for a 41-point third quarter, turning what seemed like Indiana's game into a full-blown Celtics takeover.
Bird on the rebound, pops it out to Lewis, hooks the rebound.
Bird didn't just play, he orchestrated. He threaded a perfect pass over the defense to Reggie Lewis for a thunderous two-handed slam, attacked the basket with aggression, and even converted a three-point play that had the Garden shaking.
3 inches to Bird, who's trying to post him up through the foul. Yes! And he counts!
While his three-point shot eluded him throughout the series, Bird proved why he didn't need the deep ball to dominate. His presence alone tilted the game in Boston's favor, inspiring his teammates and demoralizing the Pacers. To their credit, the Pacers didn't go quietly. Matching Boston shot for shot for much of the fourth quarter, they clawed their way back into contention. A well-executed trap defense caused some late-game chaos, briefly giving Indiana a glimmer of hope. But Boston wouldn't be denied. The Celtics stayed composed, sinking clutch free throws to seal the game with a final score of 124-121.
We'll just whip it down. 3-point lead. And here's
the Pacers had fought valiantly, but when it mattered most, Larry Bird and the Celtics proved why legends are made in moments like these. It wasn't just a victory, it was a statement.